Welcome, and thanks for joining us. I'm Rich Brady, CEO at the American Society of Military Comptrollers, the premier association representing finance and accounting professionals in the defense sector, which is celebrating its 75th anniversary throughout 2023, and your host on The Business of Defense, sponsored by ASMC on Federal News Network. My guest today is David Sterling, founder and CEO of Royce GEO. Royce GEO supports the Department of Defense and the broader intelligence community by providing geospatial IT, analytics, and intelligence support. Dave started Royce GEO in 2015 and has grown the company to over 130 employees and triple-digit growth rates. Royce GEO is revolutionizing and democratizing analytics for their federal customers by putting advanced analytics and low, no-code technologies in the hands of warfighters and decision makers. The nexus between intelligence analysis and defense financial management is clear. The proliferation of data and integration of systems is allowing for higher value-added activities through data fusion, data analytics, data visualizations, and decision support. Dave, welcome.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. As I mentioned in the opening, Royce GEO was started in about 2015. Can you take us back to 2015 and talk about the origins?
Sure. Scary time, you know. You leave work on a Friday, start on a Monday, and you got to figure out who's going to pay you and what you're going to do. It wasn't that bad. So, had been in the Intel and DoD community, both as a government civilian and a contractor. Really wanted to pursue, my background is in geospatial intelligence, really wanted to build a unique firm around how to take the intelligence lifecycle and really put novel automation and force multiplying capability around how we do tradecraft. And that was really the core thesis. And we really haven't broken from that 8 years, fast forward today. Our goal is really to, if we're putting an analyst into a mission center, into a customer location, how do we provide him with the tools, tradecraft, and know-how to make him a 3, 4, 5x multiplier in terms of his capability? And that's who we are, and I think what we are known for within our partners today.
So it's really about providing the subject matter experts, analysts, embedding them with your federal clients to support them on site. Is that the basis of the business?
Yeah, it definitely was for the first 5-6 years.
Okay.
It's get as close to the mission as possible. I would say in the last year and a half, not sure if the whole work from home environment or what has been a forcing factor to this, but we're seeing a lot of a change in terms of how the government is really buying and procuring intelligence services. So instead of, let's say, buy hours, guys in the mission center buying seats, let's buy analytical results. And that is what we've really focused on in the last couple of years. We're still not deviating away. You always need folks in the mission center. We are really looking at how to build a lot of novel tradecraft using pure commercial open source data, and then bring that inside the building, if you will, and then match that with the national level data to really do that complete sense making of the broader intelligence issue. And that approach has been, I think is really aided to our explosive growth we've experienced in the last 18 months.
And so you're headquartered here in the Washington, D.C. area. Do you have locations elsewhere outside of Washington, D.C.? Or?
Yeah, so we're primarily based in Arlington. We have a huge footprint in the Midwest in St. Louis, and we also have folks in Colorado, Hawaii, Florida, and a couple of other places overseas.
Right. Now, is that driven by your primary customer base? D.C., St. Louis sounds like NGIA, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. A lot of support to them. I think I recently saw you were awarded a contract with them. So is that what's driving a lot of the growth right now from a customer perspective?
Yeah, correct. So NGA that's by far our largest partner, and has been a great partner to us. And then we are expanding outside of NGA into a lot of the greater DoD within the combatant commands, and also some of the specific units. So where we provide folks that go downrange, that are training to fight, and they get as close to that problem set as possible. We have I think individuals right now on 3 different continents outside of North America that are working with our military partners today.
So when you're meeting with a customer, a potential customer, what's your 30-second pitch?
Our 30-second pitch is we are an advanced analytics firm that is going to show your troops, your analysts, how to 10x their job. How do you do more with the tools that you have today, and with a little bit of tradecraft, a little bit of support and data, and some of our know-how and automation? This is how we're going to improve your mission space. So, and again, that is what we've started the company on 8 years ago, and we're proving this out, and even faster and faster in the last couple of years, where I think the customer, our government base was not quite ready to expand, but technically we're getting better labor, we're getting folks that are more attuned to data science, to automation, to coding, so we're able to make that capability a little bit more pervasive.
Let's shift back to strategy. You talked about how your strategy has evolved over time, particularly over the last 18 months from what you started out at. Can you talk about, what was your strategy? What was the process you used to kind of lay out a strategy for Royce GEO in the beginning, and how has that evolved over time?
Yeah, there's the type of work that, I'll air quote, pays the bills. Nothing is wrong with doing that part of the mission stack. What we wanted to do is look at NGA, for an example. They're a big intelligence provider, a big source data collector. Okay, so what are the really novel parts of that mission set that we understand a couple layers deeper, because we've been there, we've kind of walked that ground, and that's really where we wanted to start, really layer down into that intelligence stack, that data stack, and then start expanding that capability kind of from the inside out. That really hasn't changed a whole lot. I think what really has pivoted for us is looking at, like I mentioned earlier, being inside the mission centers, looking at usually classified national technical means type data, to now where we are looking at a tremendous amount of commercial data, which is being produced at a huge multiplier compared to the national side, and really doing that sense making on the commercial side and bringing those two together. So where we see ourselves in the next 4, 5, 6 years is sitting at the intersection of national and commercial data, and showing, like I said, that complete holistic picture to support, intelligent sense making and decision making for our partners.
How difficult is it to keep your strategy up to date, or keep it pace with this the emerging technology, but also the proliferation of data that's out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's always the staff, and you need to find the next best, brightest, PhD in math who understands machine learning and orbitology. Right. Those guys happen to be out there. We were lucky enough to find some of those, and then you have, you need really good machine learning, AI, ML, computer vision folks. So there's the staff component, which obviously, if you can't recruit at the speed of tech, you're always going to be a little bit behind. We've been fortunate where we've had a really good team where we've been able to kind of grow with the tech stack, but the data side of it has been slightly challenging, because you've got commercial open source, which you can go and harvest. Then there's commercially viable collected data, which comes at a cost. We find that a lot of that is really, really good. However, it's working with our partners to really get them attuned to how to look at buying data, or moreover, let us, the company, worry about buying data, and you worry about really buying an end result. We'll make the sausage, you buy the sausage. And so that's been a bit of an education process over the last 18 months, to where we're pivoting from a time and material type contract to more of a firm fixed price analytics as a service contract. And that is where we've seen a really interesting shift in our business model. And moreover, it allows us to kind of catch back up, if you will, to, okay, now we have a contract mechanism that allows us to go to buy the data we need. We'll do it with our dollars, and at the end of the day, we're selling that analytics service, that result. And so we'll never be at pace, but we're getting really, really close to being right there with it.
You mentioned probably the hottest buzzword acronym in business, technology, education, across the board right now, AI, artificial intelligence. Can you talk a little bit about that? Are your customers asking for that, and do they understand what that really means right now in the full capabilities? Yeah,
for sure. Everyone's interested. I think folks really want to know more. There are, I think there are very few experts and a lot of just sort of knowledgeable folks. Our role as a company is to not stand on a hilltop and wave, hey, we're an AI company. We understand and use AI and ML capabilities, but it's a part of our greater automation strategy. So one of the things that we're using AI for today is how are we building machine-driven intel reports that automatically pull in, compile data from multiple streams, run it through an analytic, and then produce that report through an AI-generated model that I can deliver via email right to a 4-star's desk every morning. And we have those running today for multiple partners. That's one version of it. We are still not there to where it's going to be mouse click, human completely out of the loop. Yeah. There's some instances where, yeah, that exists, but we're pretty far away from an entire intelligence lifecycle being driven purely by machines. That expert opinion, that expert judgment, that trained analyst, that trained soldier, they are still very much a part of the equation, and quite frankly, I don't see them going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned, I've taken a look at the technology a little bit, and I'm equally intrigued, excited about it as I am, a little scared about it. Mm-hmm. It's incredibly capable, right. And there have been a number of reports about concerns about the ethical implications of this. You mentioned keeping a human in the loop. Do you see that as being just a near-term effort with AI, and eventually, the humans will be taken out of it, or really, depending on the type of environment you're working in, like intelligence, you're always going to have a human in the loop somewhere?
Yeah, I can speak to intelligence. So I think you will see a downward squeeze on the amount of potential resources that are used. And I'll pick on us, the contractor workforce, to where, yes, we're bringing in automation, we're bringing in technology, so you don't need to throw as many humans at the problem. However, I like to look at it this way when we're engaging with our partners. We're not bringing in technology like this to replace your soldier or to replace your analyst. What we're bringing in this technology is to turn your analyst into, instead of a 1x data provider, a 5, 6, 7, 10x information and data provider. So we had a situation, we were training out in the Pacific. A certain group of soldiers were able to produce about 5 reports a day, a team of 8. We turned that to 24 reports per soldier per day. So they were, it was an exponential increase, and what they saw was, okay, automation, analytics, a little bit of a sprinkle of AI here and there. This is a good thing. Nobody's getting worked out of a job. We still have important decisions where, individuals, humans need to be in that decision chain. But in terms of speed of conveying information, reporting, disseminating, getting things out there, that's where the AI/ML piece really, becomes a powerful tool. And it's just that, it's a tool. It's not necessarily the decision maker, but it's going to help that information pipeline and accelerate that.
Yeah, I think I recently read a Goldman report that said AI has the potential to increase workforce productivity by 1.5% per year, more for developed countries, wealthy countries, than for less developed countries. So a lot of potential here. Dave, I'd like to talk about how you got to Royce GEO. Before 2015, you made that decision to start the firm. What led up to that? What led you to the idea that there was a need in the marketplace for a firm like Royce GEO?
I kind of had that business bug to go and start something. I really started putting the wheels in motion in 2006, just getting smart on if I'm going to run a company. First, I'm going to need to figure out how to recruit people. So I started this little, recruiting side hustle for guys like me, like looking at intelligence folks that really understood GIS, and that was the focus. And had a handful of companies that I moonlighted and supported in the evenings. And then that kind of subsided, and then really went really deep with a mid-sized firm. We were acquired. I was working for a small firm. We were acquired, and that firm was KUIW. They've since been purchased by Jacobs. We bought 26 companies in about 6 years, and really watching company building and watching strategy and capability, and really how you can accelerate capability via acquisition. And that really is what got me fired up about entrepreneurship and really doing something inventive and different, because that company was different. And one of the luxuries of that was I got to meet former CEOs of 100-person, 150-person companies, and I talked to them, hey, what worked, what didn't work? So after 2 years, I had this ultimate playbook of company building in the defense GovCon space, and had really great mentors within the company, outside of the company, had a really great CEO. I approached him about starting my own firm, and he said, how can we help? And it was literally that simple. So, had put the idea together to really launch in July 14 and finally stepped out in February 15, and the rest is history.
So you had experience on the GovCon space. Did you have experience on the federal side as well?
I did. Okay. Early in my career, I was a Blue Badger, and I was working inside the Mission Center with one of the agencies, and we were, I was able to really learn the mission space, and that was one of the best jobs I've ever had, in the sense that every day you saw something different. You were learning every day. You really learned what, the instincts, the patterns, what, the customer is really looking for. And I think that armed me and really made me a better government contractor, if you will, in the end. And we as a company wouldn't be as effective today if it wasn't for that foundational experience that I got when I was in my early 20s.
So when you started out, you said that you reached out to some other CEOs to get advice and everything. Obviously, you've got the mentors that have supported you along the way. Did you start out as a teaming partner with some of them, or did you go right out looking for contracts of your own?
So I had some relationships with other larger integrators, and that I had met through the years of working with the mid-sized firm, and they kind of knew my story. It's a small world. It's the community is small, and they said, yeah, we would love to have your support. And some of them were very gracious to help with the facility clearance and getting some of those initial subcontracts. There was a lot of trust there. And, but at the end of the day, you've got to produce people, you got to produce a result. So, I had to execute, and we were, year 1, 2 employees, year 2, 5, and then it kind of snowballed from there. And then here we are, 130 plus employees today.
Now, you started out, it sounds like, working heavily with the intelligence community. And when I talk to other firms, some very large firms, even well-established firms, they talk about the difficulty of getting into the IC from a contracting perspective. Sure. But you made it in there, and once you're in, I hear once you're in, you're kind of in. Yeah. And so, can you talk a little bit about that? How were you able? Was those initial connections you had? What allowed you to make that first step into the intelligence community?
Yeah, so like a lot of other sectors in GovCon, it's a relationship business just like the rest of them. I started there fresh out of school. It was kind of what I knew, where my comfort zone was, and spent many years building good relationships, being someone that I knew his way around a keyboard. I was fairly proficient with tradecraft. So it was a combination, I think, of those things. And really, at the end of the day, when you're company building, especially early on, and trying to tap into new markets, you've got to find those mentors, those champions, those folks that are willing to kind of stick their neck out for you, because it's their reputation as well. And I was able to build via the relationships, build some good teaming partners early on. And we've started off with a small pool of contracts, and now we're, I believe, in somewhere around 15 to 16 different contracts, and with 4 to 5 different government customers, both DoD and IC.
Now, as you branch out, you're starting to work more with the Department of Defense, and not on the IC side. What differences are there? Can you see some differences in how you approach the customers with your offerings?
At the end, a lot of them are asking for the same thing. At least in the work that we do in advanced analytics and accelerated tasking orchestration, really understanding the commercial space layer, bringing machine learning to bear to tradecraft. All those things really nest together very well, and the more we speak with folks, especially in the Air Force, Space Force, Army, Special Operations Command, they all really have one variation off of the same requirement. So we're able to tailor a lot of our solutions to meet their specific need, but at the end of the day, it's still the same problem set. How are we finding targets of interest? How are we maintaining custody over those targets, really understanding what they're doing? How do we harness the commercial data layer and bring that in to support and supplement our national data that we're collecting? So in the end, we feel like we've figured out that piece of the world really well, and now it's how far can we go with each one of these partners to really make sure that we can deliver as much capability.
There's also a lot of pressure on IT budgets. Are you experiencing some of that? Are you trying to find for your customers some cost savings, some ways that they can leverage technology, or you can help them find a way of doing it cheaper? I know we talked about the data. The government doesn't want to buy data twice. So how can you support them in that area? Yeah,
for sure. Cloud costs are starting to become a real eyesore for folks. At first, it was cloud as the cheap, novel, efficient way to look at data processing and analytics, and now we're seeing reports of large Fortune 500 firms are going back to physical. They're going back to servers. because they're seeing that cloud is now not as cheap as they thought. One of the things that we do in working in cloud analytics is looking at a lot of data pre-processing, a lot of data conditioning, things that you can do that don't require the cloud so that you're not running all of your data against an analytic using all that cloud resource and the money and the cost associated with that. So we've spent a lot of time on data conditioning, data processing, data understanding to say, okay, government, your cloud bill is this. Let's help you bring it down to this. And here's some novel ways to do it that really don't cost you anything. Another piece on the pure enterprise IT side is looking at how are we doing things like unified communications? How are we taking older monolithic systems and really replacing them with smart, lean systems that can be run with a small group of engineers opposed to a group of 20 engineers, and use that technology. So communication is one of the most important things. When your Jabber goes down, the entire agency goes dark. No one can talk. So we're showing them very lean, very efficient, very highly reliable systems that can be run with a small footprint of folks. And we have a pretty large enterprise IT component of the company, and we just won a fairly large program as a partner to General Dynamics, and out of the gate, not any fault of the prime or the customer, but the environment is the environment. This is the IT footprint we need to support. Here's the staff that's in place. Make do with what you have, and that's kind of the new normal. But at the end, if the lights are on, everything's blinking, everyone's happy, we're happy. So we do our best to make sure that with the staff we have, we can, take care of many of the addressable items as possible and keep the lights on.
At the end of the day, even with technology, it takes people. It takes a skilled workforce.
Right.
We talked a little bit about talent management in the first segment. I would like to come back to that. It's tough. Unemployment's at historically low levels. We're still sorting out the remote versus hybrid versus in-person work. And you've got the added complexity of being in the intelligence community, working with the intelligence community, where you have to have cleared people. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges and maybe some opportunities you're seeing in the talent management space?
Challenges always exist, clearances and highly skilled personnel, right? And I believe there for a while you had a lot of the major tech giants were really beefing up their staff, and now we're seeing this attrition that's happening across multiple very large firms. Companies our size are becoming the benefactor of some of that. Really great talent that was unfortunately laid off that have come our way that we've been able to hire. That's one, and that's I think that's a very isolated incident. That's not going to be the norm. What we're seeing as an opportunity, and this pivots to how we're doing a lot of intelligence production on the pure commercial open source side where clearances aren't required, we're able to bring in really young, talented staff, get them trained up on intelligence, tradecraft, and skills, things they would not see unless they were sitting inside a mission center with the clearance. And then at the same time, we're able to get them cleared via contracts that we own. So now we have this natural progression of organic development of junior staff that we can now trust to put inside the mission center that really understand tradecraft, that really understand data, that are really good with customers, that we've trained, we've coached, we've mentored, because you can't go and hire off the street every machine learning expert.
Right.
You just can't get them. So the other option is you have to build them organically, and that's so we're doing a combination of really good external recruiting, and then more importantly that talent cultivation, development, and management internally.
And in doing that, are you able to maintain the culture that you want within Royce GEO?
I think that only helps the culture by doing that, because you're showing, especially the younger generation as they're coming up, and we were all there, what's the next great job? What's going to be that job that gives me that promotion? Maybe it's in the company, maybe it's out. We like to think we can show them not one path to promotion. Here's 4 different paths to promotion. And it's through basically different programs, different parts of our portfolio or customer base, to where right now we've got a team of analysts that are working 4 different projects, and it's all for direct DoD mission support. And it's no one project is the same. So it's providing that variability, it's providing them that experience they wouldn't get otherwise just sitting down working one effort, and it's playing out really well. We're already getting folks cleared, and we're already getting them ready to go in the chute to go inside the mission space, this fall.
Well, I look forward to seeing where Royce GEO is in about 5 years.
I do too, Rich.
All right, I'd like to thank today's guest, David Sterling, founder and CEO of Royce GEO, for his insights into Royce GEO's mission, strategy, and culture, how they are leveraging technology and data to support their federal customers, and the opportunities he sees with AI and data fusion in the federal sector. This brings us to the end of our first program year on the business of defense. I want to thank our guests from across the defense sector, the bigs, the smalls, the partnerships and private equity owned, and the SDVOBs, the ESOPs, and EDWOSBs who have joined us over the past 12 months. These business leaders brought us inside their companies to talk about the challenges and opportunities of operating in the federal and defense space. I also want to thank our partners at WTOP and Federal News Network for their expertise in programming, production, and distribution of this video podcast. And finally, I want to thank you, our viewers and listeners, for your support and the feedback you have provided to improve this program. Please join us again next month as we kick off our second program year and bring you inside the companies working to drive transformation in the defense sector, to hear directly from their business leaders and to understand how they create value for their companies and their customers. I am Rich Brady, CEO of the American Society of Military Comptrollers, and I thank you again for joining us. You are listening to Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search ASMC.